Hey, it's Mazzy and welcome back. Here's another video, another end of year special extravaganza. This is the top box sets of 2022. Now, I always say this music is not a competition, but we have a good time doing top 10 lists, right? Some of the top 10s I'm going to be doing this month, I mentioned a couple weeks ago when I did my top 10 wankers of the year that I was going to roll out box sets and archival and reissue best of, and then album best of. There might be one other one too in the coming weeks, but this is box sets. Some of the best of might not be in order and I might not rank them, but I decided to rank these 10. I almost decided to rank them by weight because I thought that would be really interesting. I'm not quite sure if anyone ever has done the top heaviest box sets of the year by weight, but it's a subjective list, and these are just from my collection, so it's not everything. You're going to be shouting out, you forgot this and that, and sure, I forgot Neu, the Neu box set, the German Dusseldorf splinter off of Kraftwerk. I don't have that in this list. The Kinks, Everyone's in Showbiz. You know, that was my first box set disappointment. I had it, and I returned it because I didn't like the sound, and I think it wasn't... I don't think it really was successful. And Andrew Sandoval, who usually does these Kinks box, did not work on that one. I don't think. I could be wrong. I just didn't like it. So that was returned back to where it came from. So I'm doing 10 with one bonus. And the one bonus is a CD set just because I'm not including CD sets in this list. But I want to include this one. So coming in at number bonus, and I didn't weigh this one because CDs weigh almost nothing. So this is the Waiting for Columbus Little Feat box set that Rhino, Warner Brothers, Warner Records now as they're called, put out. Waiting for Columbus is probably in the top 10, maybe even top 5 best live rock and roll records ever created. Came out in, I don't know, 77, 78-ish, 76, 77, in that period. I did see them at Winterland around 75 or 76. And what this does, this expands from that 78 concert, includes several other shows from 1977 as well. Choreographed, curated, I should say. There's no dancing involved, maybe, you know, but of course, Lowell George and Bill Payne and the boys, and what a great live band they were. And this is amazing sounding record. Now, there was a reissue, an all analog, I believe, Chris Bellman cut, or Bernie Grenman cut, I should say. Vinyl, wasn't the full box, just the proper album. So I'm not including that. But if you don't have this album, you should get that because it sounds really wonderful. This has the CDs. Here is the original cover with that great cover illustration painting by Neon Parks, who did almost all the records except for the first. Also did Zappa's Weasel Rip My Flesh and a couple other Zappa records. Waiting for Columbus, July 77, Manchester City Hall, Manchester in the United Kingdom. We have the Rainbow London, 77, and we have Linzer Auditorium, Washington, D.C., 77. This is a lovely box set put out by Rhino Records. Good job, Rhino. So now we're going to start the top 10 best box sets of the year according to Mr. Maslov here. Coming at number 10, a late entry, a Record Store Day entry. Now, these came out over the last few years, I believe, individually on Record Store Day. I did not get them, and it was put out by a box. So I'm still counting it because the box came out this year. And this is Fleetwood Mac. This is the alternate collection. The alternate Fleetwood Mac, Rumors, Tusk, Live, Mirage, and Tango in the Night. Of course, the Buckingham Nicks years, the big selling years. And what these were, and these are actually, they still are, as I recall, these are outtakes, alternative versions of the songs, different versions of the songs, sometimes an early take, a acoustic demo, things like that. And it is really a fun collection because it gives you alternate covers, obviously, from the 75 Fleetwood Mac album, from, of course, the alternate Rumors, a slightly different photograph. You got Tusk. Now, I love this because I love Tusk. It's probably amongst my favorite of this period. It's an adventurous record. It's a little disjointed, very much like the Beatles' White Album, but it's a lovely record. I actually think this is a better cover. I never liked the dog cover. I think that was a weak link in that album, but an adventurous, in a way, some people feel a Lindsey Buckingham affair where he went crazy. I never had the live. I don't have the regular live album. I never owned that. So the alternative live album, I didn't even look at. I haven't listened to this particular disc. The Mirage alternative and Tango in the Night. Coming in at number 9 is this Blue Note box set. The only jazz box I included in this particular list. And this technically came out the end of 2021, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a 2022 release. It really rolled out earlier this year. And this is a Tone Poet, the jazz label curated by Joe Harley for Blue Note, of some amazing reissues, all analog, Kevin Gray cut, etc., etc. Now, they were probably smart to put all of his output in one box set because individually, it's kind of hit and miss, not necessarily musically, but the audience that would be attracted to, Ornette Coleman. You're either in or you're not with Ornette Coleman. I mean, I think he's not an entry point for jazz. I know he's not an entry point for jazz. He does freeform, avant-garde, dissonant notes, which is basically notes that don't necessarily go in the order that, that your brain understands and reacts to and are pleasing. You know, consonant notes, when everything as the melody goes along, how you expect them to be somewhat, but they make sense. He doesn't do that. Eric Dolphy is like that. Don Cherry is like that, several others. But this is the entire output he did for Blue Note Records. Very rewarding if you have the time to get into it. I'd say if you're coming from the punk scene and the avant-garde scene, you're gonna get this maybe. Heavy metal scene, possibly even, because it's jarring music. And I actually first heard about Ornette Coleman because of Yoko Ono's first album, Yoko Ono, Plastic Ono Band, 1970. He plays on one track on that record. So I knew his name. First year I was getting into jazz with Bitches Brew with Miles Davis. And I ended up seeing him in 1974 or 75 at the Keystone Corner in San Francisco with James Blood Ulmer, jazz, bluesy, funky guitar player, which is, I don't think he played a lot with guitar players, so that was an interesting thing. But starts out with these two live sessions, the first two he did for Blue Note at a Stockholm, beautifully mastered and everything, but adventurous and atonal at a time maybe. Then it goes into this. Now this is probably the most controversial. A lot of jazz freaks, a lot of jazz critics didn't get Ornette Coleman. Some still don't get him. This is The Empty Foxhole. It's a trio with Charlie Hayden, the great bass player, who's done a lot of adventurous stuff, a lot of stuff with Ornette Coleman also. And Ornette DiNardo Coleman on drums, which was his 10 or 11-year-old son at the time, which was wild. And a lot of people didn't appreciate that. But interesting recording, cover art by Ornette Coleman himself. Great gatefolds, like the typical, most of the bulk of the Tone Poet records. Then there's a quartet he did next, and this is New York Is Now with Dewey Redman, Jimmy Garrison, and Elvin Jones. Powerful record. All these records are intense. There's not a lot of, if any, slow ballads on this. These are adventurous records. Then there's Love Call, Ornette Coleman. I think this is 1968. Yeah, 1968 this came out. Lovely gatefold too. This consists of 4 tracks, all pretty powerhouse tracks. I think the final track kind of gets more mid-tempo, but there's still the dissonant patterns of notes on a saxophone is something. And all these, he does play violin at times on some of the stuff too. And rounding it out, this is probably the most accessible of the set because he's not the leader. This is a Jackie McLean record, and it's with Ornette Coleman, Lamont Johnson, Scott Holt, and Billy Higgins. So that is coming in at number 9. Tone Poet, the only jazz in this particular video, the only box set, might be the only box set I bought this year, at least on vinyl, a jazz box set, but coming in number 9, Ornette Coleman. And by the way, this box set weighs in at 6 pounds, 12 ounces. I forgot to mention Fleetwood Mac comes in at 4 pounds, 15 ounces. Now the second heaviest box that I have is weighing in at 13 pounds, 10 ounces, and that is McCartney Productions Limited. This is the 80 45 RPM singles box set of Sir Paul McCartney. I do have a feature on this box set. I'll put links to the feature on this set. Here are the singles. All picture sleeves from various countries. Includes a wonderfully annotated book going through every song, who plays on it, where it was recorded, when it was released, track by track. I won't get into any more of this because you can link below to the full introduction of that. Paul McCartney has made great singles. Some of his B-sides I think are more interesting than the A-sides, but this is for the full collector. It is out of print now, or sold out I should say, but this is coming in at number 8, Paul McCartney 80, the singles box. Coming number 7 at 5 pounds 4 ounces is PJ Harvey. This is B-sides, demos, and rarities. PJ Harvey. She just finished an entire reissue campaign that was rolled out over the last several years, that each release had the proper album and a separate album sold separately of outtakes, demos, sort of the demo albums of those. And it's a brilliant series. A British artist, post-punk, freak, folk, just really wonderful, influenced by Yoko Ono, Patti Smith, and so many others, and a truly original, such a great artist. And to cap it off, they put this out several months ago, this box set. This has 6 records. Each record has its own artwork and track listing. No separate book, but just really great music. And you know, she's one of those artists that the demos are just great listens, and the alternate takes are great listens in conjunction with the actual records. So PJ Harvey coming in at number 7. Coming at number 6, weighing 6 pounds, 4 ounces, 1966, the summer of 1966, possibly the best album ever put out by the Fab Four, the Beatles, is Revolver, the Revolver box. Now this is the vinyl box. I do have the CD box. Again, I'm not including those. And this is a wonderful package. Why isn't it higher? Because the album's great. Does it need a remix? Okay, here's what it contains. You have actually a well-done remix by Giles Martin. Vocals are finely centered, certain instruments are brought up, bass fuller. I happen to be a fan of the original stereo. I don't mind the left-right vocals of Eleanor Rigby and the other tracks. To me, the swirling idea of stereo. Now, this sounds really good. It's a success for what it is. To me, it's not a replacement, but I love having this, and it's a fun alternative. That's all it is to me. For people who missed out on the mono box, this is probably the diamond in this set. This is an all analog cut from the analog tapes of the mono version. And of course, you know, Beatle people and Beatle-ish guys and the Beatles themselves say at this point, 1966, mono was the way to go. Mono is what they concentrated on. I like the stereo better, but you finally get a mono thing, because these monos from the mono box and the single releases that came out in 2014 are long gone and worth a lot and going for a lot. So it's really kind of great to have this in there. Next, now this is the gem in the box from my point of view. This is the original cover concept created by Robert Freeman, the photographer, who did most of the Beatle records, did With the Beatles, Beatles for Sale, Help, Hard Day's Night, Rubber Soul, and he's the photographer. He also did the end credits for Help and Hard Day's Night. He put this together, but they went to Klaus Voormann. They're both great in its own way. I mean, this probably makes sense when you talk about Revolver, but they went with the other thing, which to me is still one of the best covers. This has alternate versions, works in progress. One of the highlights in this set, surprisingly, is Yellow Submarine, the folk song demo that John Lennon worked on, where it was about where I was born, I was growing up, and that became Yellow Submarine. No sign of the Yellow Submarine lyric, but that's sort of the genesis of the song. But there's the regular sped version of Rain and so much other thing. This is a wonderful set. This is an amazing album. This is really an archaeological dig in this fabulous Beatles album, Revolver. And of course, it has a lovely companion volume with photographs of the sessions, with notes on the sessions, and with, you know, curated content. Just a fabulous set. You also get the stereo and mono remixes of, you know, possibly one of the greatest double singles, double A side, Paperback Writer and Rain on a 7-inch. Love this to death. So the Beatles Revolver coming at number 6 in 2022, the number 6 box set of the year. Coming in number 5 is Tom Petty live at the Fillmore Auditorium, San Francisco. 1997. He did 3 weeks, 28 shows, I believe, in 1997. I saw 3 of the shows. Don't ask me which night. I don't remember. It wasn't the first night. I don't even think it was the first week, but I saw 3 different shows at the Fillmore in San Francisco, one of my favorite venues on Fillmore and Geary. So Tom Petty Live at the Fillmore is a 6-record set. Comes in these sort of several psychedelic colored sleeves that really kind of fit with the whole San Francisco Fillmore vibe. Obviously a little retro spinning trip out scene. I think this was Smog Design as well, worked on this set. They've been doing all the Tom Petty archive things. And it has a lovely little pouch. Tom Petty at the Heartbreakers, Haight-Ashbury, San Francisco, California, which the Fillmore, by the way, is not in the Haight-Ashbury. I was born in the tip of the Haight-Ashbury, and the Fillmore is in the Western Addition off of Geary and Fillmore. So, but you know, the whole Fillmore vibe and Summer of Love, San Francisco shit, I get it. It's fun, no problem. But I was there, I was born there, I grew up there. Live at the Fillmore. This contains what they call in the Jewish trade Chazarai, the obligatory booklet. Live at the Fillmore in 1997. Photographs, rehearsal, talk. It's a really well put together set, as usual. I mean, the Tom Petty reissues are really wonderful. The box sets, the live archive, but this is just the Fillmore. They did do a live archive, a gatefold, actually album, very much like old 78s in the past. Backstage pass, Fillmore guitar picks, set list, official Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers newsletter, repro, and numbered poster sheet, number 10,695. And what was really great about this series of shows, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers were able to stretch out. Instead of doing just sort of their normal set lists, plus some, you know, changes in and out of their hits, they really dug deep in their archive, an archive of a lot of great covers, very much jam band-like, but in the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers way. They do songs like Goldfinger, You Really Got Me from the Kinks, Gloria, Ain't No Sunshine, The Grateful Dead's Friend of the Devil, fits right in with this whole Fillmore show. So they stretched out and they basically had a month, almost a month at the Fillmore, residency at the Fillmore, the great Fillmore Auditorium. Coming at number 4, and this weighs 7 pounds, 9 ounces. Now, I don't have the main box. I chose not to get the main box, but this also is one of the most beautifully designed box sets of the year. And this is the Blondie box set. Now, I did not get the full box set, the huge, heavier, it would have probably been the heaviest one in this collection, in this best of, if I had bought it. But that box set included the entire catalog, the entire discography, the proper albums. I have all the original albums of Blondie except the final album. So I chose to get this version, which I'm glad they offered it. This is Against the Odds, 1974 to 1982. This is the version with all the alternate versions, the outtakes, the demos. This is the rare shit. And I went for the rare shit because I already have the normal shit of Blondie. Blondie is one of the great, great acts of the late 70s into the 1980s. And what's wonderful about them, they come out of the CBGB's thing out of New York, and they were able to get into dance music and disco and hip hop, and rap, and not be ridiculed, and not say this white chick is singing rap songs and we're gonna mock her. They pulled it off. This has parallel beats, outtakes and alternate versions from the Parallel Line session. This has Out in the Streets, again, some outtapes and home tapes, really wonderfully curated, put together. The Plaza Sound Studio Safety Master with X-Offender, just great stuff. This is a really fun listen. This is one of the most enjoyable listens I had this year on my box set, and I really dived in. Now, these box set cover things. Some of them curate and cover entire segments of an artist. Some curate and cover one album. Some are total unreleased material. And I think this really probably is amongst the best of the unreleased material, this Blondie box set. I don't miss having the full box again because I have that. This is more manageable. It's not as heavy, but this is really a beautiful set. And ironically, I think the book is a full 12 by 12, where in the full set, it's smaller. What was that about? I think some people who bought the full box are a little pissed off by that, but just a great, great book. Probably one of the best books in all these collections. In fact, I will say right now, this is the best book of all the box sets in 2022. Blondie, their entire career as demos, as inclusive alternate outtakes. Number 4, Blondie. Coming in at number 2 and weighing 8 pounds, 4 ounces is Wilco, Yankee Foxtrot. Their most adventurous album, my favorite album of theirs, that's the one that Nonsuch put out because Warner Brothers passed on it, which is really strange when you think about Warner Brothers history. But this is a lovely box set. And this is a... Excuse me while I open my box. This is a cover and a slipcase. And I mean, you need to map sometimes to figure out how to open some of these box sets. Again, another multi-set that has beautiful versions of live music, outtakes, alternate versions, backing tracks. Of course, that great iconic photograph of the apartment buildings right off of the river in Chicago. You know, if you're not into Wilco, I'm not an all-in Wilco guy, but when they click with me, they really click with me. And this is the album that I associate most with Wilco. I don't know every track that Wilco's done. I don't follow everything Jeff Tweedy has done. There's friends of mine that are so into them and know everything. But this stuff is amazing. This is a deep dive. This is an archaeological dive, and this is a very rewarding dive. So coming in at number 3, Wilco, Yankee Foxtrot. I think it's the 20th anniversary of the box set. What an amazing creation. Now number 2. This is a heavy mother. This is a heavy mother. And there's 3 parts to this, and you'll see why in a minute. The main box set, coming in at 18 pounds, 16 ounces, is that great Summer of Europe 72, the Grateful Dead. Now, this box set, this is the entire run of the Grateful Dead 1972 complete recordings at the Lyceum Theater. Grateful Dead Lyceum Theater, the 23rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th of May, 1972. I've done Grateful Dead rankings, one actually, and videos. And for me, the best Grateful Dead record, if I had to pick one, is Europe 72. Now, I get the justification for Live Dead. I get the justification for American Beauty and Working Man's Dead. They're 2 best studio albums that are an aberration of everything they've done, in my opinion. Perfect albums in 1970. But in 1972, Europe 72 just really showcased some of their greatest songwriting, the greatest performance. They still had Big Pigpen. They brought in the Donna and Keith Godchaux, which, you know, people like or hate. Depends on when you came in the Dead. I first saw the Dead in 68. I saw them a lot around 71, 72, 73, 74, and beyond somewhat. But 72 was a brilliant year. Saw them the New Year's Eve shows, 71, 2, 2, 3 at Winterland. And this set is stunning. They used a plangent process. The sound of these are good. That's a digital process that fixes tunings, because we all know the Grateful Dead seem to be always out of tune or out of key. Fixes distortion on Live Taste, but it sounds brilliant. These have all the shows with wonderful illustrations from London. It's a really, really lovely job they did here. Now again, I recommend when people have never been into the Dead, I recommend Europe 72. Now, Europe 72, the actual album that came out from the live triple record, they fixed it. They did some studio overdubbing of vocals, instrumentation. Is that a cheat? I don't really care. I don't know. It just sounds really good. And it's a great entry point for people, in my opinion. And I was born in the tip of the Haight-Ashbury, so I have my opinion is valid. Maybe no more valid than some Deadhead who's been to 1,600 Dead shows and knows every version of Dark Star or the other or something. But this is a really wonderful version. Now, I didn't weigh the other parts of this, but I had to include them and throw them in because this year in Record Store Day, the Spring Record Store Day and the Black Friday Record Store Day, they put out these Wembley Empire Pool April 7th and 8th. 2 more separate releases from this tour in 1972. Brilliant tour, brilliant selling records. I love these in the Grateful Dead. I pick all these up. I don't pick all the Dave picks. I didn't pick up all the Dick picks way back. Those are semi-official bootlegs that come out, but Record Store Day ones like this, I'm all in on. And coming number 2 is the Grateful Dead Europe 72, especially these shows, these London shows. Just fabulous music. Again, a fabulous time for the Grateful Dead, the last tour with Pigpen. And, there really is nothing like a Grateful Dead concert. And of course, this book that comes with the big box just really tops it off as well. So coming in number 2, the Lyceum, the Grateful Dead, the Lyceum, the complete shows of London, Lyceum 1972, Grateful Dead. Now, number 1, the best box set of 2022. I just did a feature on it, so I'm gonna link you to that feature that showcases more. But that is For the Birds, the Birdsong Project. A beautifully curated tour de force of 20 LPs, various artists from folk to ambient, to electronic, to spoken word, all about birds, all about the poetry of birds, the music of birds, artists interpreting birds, the sound of birds. A passionate project that came about during the pandemic and lockdown, when things were quiet, where people were at home. People in the cities were hearing more birds than ever, at least paying attention to more birds than ever. And this came out of that period, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful listen. Beautiful artwork. Again, this was designed by Small Design. I'll put a link to that video because it takes a deeper dive into this wonderful, beautiful project. Really great music, a great curation by Randall Poster, who put together all these artists and actors reading poetry, composing music, especially for this album. Some archival songs like Alice Coltrane and Yoko Ono, but some newer artists and some really a mix of genres on here. And just, it really actually works together. And wonderful artwork, again, designed by Smog Design here with this lovely booklet. This was my possibly the most beautiful box set of the year. And definitely musically, it's really great. Now, as I said at the top of this video, music is not a competition, and you can't compare that great Wilco album to something like this, to the Grateful Dead live from 1972, to Blondie, to Ornette Coleman. But these are records that I really have been taking a deep dive into this year, some more than others. Some are very recent, some I've been listening to throughout the year, and I really enjoy these. So I hope you like these. Check them out. You can stream some of this stuff. But the beauty in these designs, the beauty in the music, and the archival curation is something that I really appreciate. And I love when they compile, music, artwork, packaging like this. So thanks again for watching. There'll be more best ofs coming up throughout this month. Take care, and Mazzy loves you.